Let's turn to business news now with Nona Peltier, who's sitting beside me in the studio with a big old stash of papers. Nona, latest QV figures are amongst them, I presume?
Yes, well, we've just heard that QV, we've cracked the 600,000 mark for national house prices. Wow.
So that's average, is it? National house price average?
That's an average.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big increase over the last, that's over a year. We're at, 14.1%. So that's a big hike. And we're seeing increases everywhere, even in places that all around Auckland, but in further afield as well. And in whether or not these LVRs, this is the loan to the value ratios, which the banks are restricting. Have we seen any impact there? There is some indication that some investors have pulled their deposits because they no longer qualify, because some of the banks are already at their point where they really can't lend anything below that 40% mark anyway, because they've been lending for ages.
And the banks have been coming out quite explicitly in the past few weeks. I mean, the banks who've been lending like they're printing money for the past decade or whatever are now saying we're going to exercise greater caution, the bar is being set higher, so all this kind of language is entering the equation, but the property prices keep rising.
The property prices do keep rising, and that's because people like to own homes, and they're prepared to pay, really, seemingly any price. 600,000, and almost, well, of course, about $1 million in Auckland, so yeah, it's a lot of money for a house. Anyways, the RBA, that's the Reserve Bank of Australia, seem a little less concerned about their housing market. They've lowered their key interest rate this afternoon to an all-time low of 1.5%.
Holy moly.
That's right. And it was not quite priced into the market, so we've seen some movement in our currency this afternoon.
We would have gone up against the Aussie, wouldn't we?
We did. A whole half a cent.
Yep.
And overnight, you know, yesterday we were talking about how the New Zealand dollar has moved mostly because of the US dollar. Overnight it was dragged down by the Australian dollar because the market was anticipating this cut. And so the New Zealand dollar was 71.8 US cents this afternoon, 95.5 Australian, and 54.4 British pence. So, yeah, the New Zealand dollar is very strong. Next week, we're expecting to hear from the Reserve Bank of New Zealand on our monetary policy statement and our key interest rate.
So, given the fact that the inflation rate in New Zealand is below the range it's meant to be in, and given that the dollar is so high, you would be expecting to see an interest rate cut.
Yes, and also the Reserve Bank of Australia has just come out with their statement, which sounds very much like what we heard a couple weeks ago from the RNZ, and what we'll probably hear next week. And for our share market, we were down 27 points, not very much. We're still at 7,329, which is a 0.4% fall.
Nona Peltier, thank you so much, Nona. Appreciate it.